Well, the CARE Act is by far the most expensive rescue plan in American history because it includes a lot of stuff that has nothing to do with the pandemic. For example, it lifts the caps on dredging ports. What in the world does dredging ports have to do with COVID-19? Well, the port of Mobile, Alabama needs to be dredged, and the senior senator of Alabama chairs the Senate Appropriations Committee. Guess what happened next?
We're increasing the depth and the width of the Mobile Harbor Channel to its authorized dimensions.
Meanwhile, if you look through some of Mitch McConnell's press releases through the years, you'll see this one. He's been fighting for new sunscreen rules, which would ramp up production of sunscreen products in his home state of Kentucky.
Are you kidding me? This is the moment to debate new regulations that have nothing whatsoever to do with this crisis?
Well, lo and behold, the $2 trillion COVID-19 rescue plan also includes provisions to ramp up sunscreen production, just like McConnell has been fighting for years.
That, of course, sometimes happens in this town.
McConnell's office said he didn't write that sunscreen provision into the 800-page bill. Somebody else must have put that in.
That's what they're up to over there.
So while we're fighting this invisible enemy that continues to attack and kill people all around the world, while we continue to struggle to find the supplies to treat and even detect it, at least we may not have to worry as much about sunburn.
Are you kidding me?
Meanwhile, Patrick Leahy, who represents the small state of Vermont, added a provision that mandates every small state in the nation get at least $1.5 billion out of the act, regardless of how much or how little the pandemic affects them. And the provisions that provide oversight or guardrails in terms of how the money can be spent have gaping loopholes. For example, while companies that get bailout money are banned from using it to buy back stock or boost executive pay, the Treasury Secretary can lift those bans. And by now you've heard of how the CARE Act bans businesses from getting bailouts if they're run by President Trump or his immediate family or by top leaders in Congress. But under the terms in the fine print, there's nothing to stop a private holding company for their businesses, like the Trump Organization, from benefiting from the act. And as the New York Times first discovered on page 203 of the legislation, the act provides additional tax relief for highly wealthy real estate investors because they can use more of their losses to bring down their tax bills, which could save them $170 billion through the next 10 years. And the IRS gets another $250 million to ramp up taxpayer audits, among other things. And remember all the conservative fury over Nancy Pelosi's request for more money for the Kennedy Center, the Performing Arts Center in Washington, D.C.? The Republican campaign machine had a field day with that when calling it a bailout for a fancy opera house. Not telling you the Republican Senate version also bails out the Kennedy Center. Not telling you President Trump supports that bailout as well.
But I'm a fan of that. The Kennedy Center has suffered greatly, and they do need some funding. I said, that's a lousy soundbite. That's not a good soundbite, but that's the way life works.
And did you know the COVID-19 rescue plan also includes more federal funding for abstinence-only education in our schools? We'll continue to show you more examples of how the rescue money is being spent in ways you may not expect. And we'll also continue to answer your questions about those direct payments going out to taxpayers on Fox13News.com and on the coming rounds of Money, Power, and Politics.